achieved.
So I guess you could call it a historical moment because it is the first of its kind. We saw a trade between two organizations, the UFC and ONE FC, where two contracted fighters swapped companies. Former UFC flyweight champion and one of the greatest champions of all time, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, was shipped over to ONE FC, and in exchange, the UFC gets Ben Askren, ONE FC welterweight and former Bellator welterweight champion, also undefeated fighter. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't anticipate this being a trend. I think it's just an anomaly. But hey, I could be wrong. We could see organizations starting to swap disgruntled fighters or big-name fighters who need a different place, a different opportunity to fight. But we'll see how things go for both fighters. I hope Demetrius Johnson gets the opportunity to compete and make some big-time money because I don't think he was well respected despite everything he accomplished here in the United States and Canada, North America. And for Ben Askren, he definitely brings another whole element to the welterweight division. And I'm curious to see who they will match him up with first. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we are breaking in the upcoming UFC 230 pay-per-view, which will take place on November 3rd from Madison Square Garden in New York City, and will feature a UFC heavyweight championship bout between two divisional champion Daniel Cormier and the unlikely title challenger Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. All of my main card predictions will be available on this episode of the show. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Also on my website, you can check out the bet packs. I am coming off a very good show. I went 10-3 at UFC Fight Night 138. I hit several of my big plays, including my number one play, which was Court McGee. My number two play was Anthony Smith. My bet packs had a massive return. You can pick those up in the bet shop for just $15. Or if you subscribe for the rest of the year, you'll save yourself about $30. Now, again, my big bankroll bundle, which is geared towards bettors who have a lot of money and want to bet on just one or two fights, returns 71 units. My big risk, big reward bundle, which is geared more towards casual bettors who have a few, $50, $100, $200 they want to bet, it returned 113.7 units. Now, I do things a little bit different. I don't look at units the traditional way. I do it more so it's just simple math. You can plug in what you want to risk per unit, and that's what you bet. Again, I've tried to look at other ways. Every time I make changes, I get my customers contacting me and saying, "Look, we like it this way. Go back to this way of doing it. That's the way we prefer it." And again, you guys are the ones paying the money, so that's who I'm going to adhere to. So again, I know some people like to criticize or comment on the way I do things, but again, I've been around for 8 years. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've had over 300 episodes. I'm still going strong, and my numbers are big. So again, I guess I must be doing something right. Additionally, if you're looking for a place to bet or a different place to bet, check out melbet.org. You can find a description in the link below. They have a number of different betting options for MMA. They actually cover just a plethora of sports and other games that you can bet on, so please check them out. That's melbet.org for all of your betting needs. Again, there's a description in the link below. Also, please consider subscribing. We're nearing 2,000 subscribers as I do this video. You can also follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions if you want to follow me. When I tweet on Fight Night, sometimes I don't tweet as consistently as I used to, but I still get as much information as I can, and I post about my bets and other things that I'm doing at the time. On that note, we have a lot to get to, so let's get to that first main card prediction. So fight number one of the main card takes place in the UFC's middleweight division. It's actually the first of 4 main card middleweight fights. It features number 6th ranked Derrick Brunson with a record of 18 wins and 6 losses, taking on the 9th ranked Israel Idonije, the last style bender. His current record undefeated at 14 wins and no losses. He's ranked 9th in the division. Now Adesanya is climbing the ladder very nicely, getting that nice progression of competition, fighting Wilkinson in his debut, then Vettori in his next fight, and most recently defeating Brad Tavares again, and Brunson again, another step in that right direction, and offering like that gateway jump to the elite of the division. Brunson comes to this matchup. He's been up and down. He had a 5-fight winning streak that really got him close to the top. Then he lost to future champion Robert Whittaker, lost a very controversial decision to Anderson Silva, had back-to-back wins, including knocking out Lyoto Machida, and is coming off a knockout loss in a rematch against Jacare Souza. Physically, Adesanya 6'4". He's 3 inches taller than Brunson. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by 5 years. Now, at its base, this fight could be considered that grappler versus striker matchup. Derrick Brunson, a former NCAA Division II wrestler, versus an elite-level kickboxer and boxer in Adesanya. Now, it's not really like that when you really look at what Brunson brings to the table, because he's become a very dangerous and explosive striker. He's more of that wrestle boxer type who likes to keep fights standing and, let his power do the talking. So the first question we have to look at when we're examining a fight like this is how likely is Brunson to shoot and take Adesanya down and wrestle him for the duration of the fight? Because that's, I think a lot of people are thinking that's how this fight is going to play out. Pardon my computer. Let me just hit the pause button on that one. Now, it's worth noting he has landed just 2 takedowns in his last 9 fights. And when he took on fighters that were predominantly strikers, here's the stats we're looking at. Lyoto Machida, he attempted no takedowns, landed none. He was 2 for 10 against Anderson Silva, 0 for 3 against Uriah Hall, and 0 for 3 against Robert Whittaker. He finished those 4 fights with a record of 2-2. So that kind of gives you an idea of what he might be looking at against another striking-based opponent. When he fought Anderson Silva, he landed a hard right hand and then changed levels for a takedown attempt. Anderson defended it. Later on, we saw Anderson sprawl out of a takedown attempt when Brunson tried to put him on the mat. And again, that is, what we're looking at here. Can Adesanya stay vertical? Where we did see Brunson have a success against the Spider was when he landed those reactive takedowns, created a little bit of chaos, got inside on his hips, and turned him to the mat. And that's probably his best bet here. At times in that fight, he seemed a little timid. He was not committing on his strikes as much. He was putting his back to the cage against Anderson, giving up ground. And he was coming off that knockout loss to Robert Whittaker. And that's worth noting because he's coming off a knockout loss here against Jacare Souza. In the Whittaker fight, he got reckless. He was reaching and overextending, which he has a tendency to do, and that exposes his chin, which he holds a little bit high. Brunson, a lot of times when he's engaging, he likes to make that first contact by really reaching out with a jab or a low kick, close the gap behind it. His best offense usually is a double jab followed by that big left hand where he's looking to knock his opponent out. He dropped Machida with a left hand over the top in a close exchange, and that was when Machida actually closed the gap and initiated. Now the question is, what will Adesanya do as far as his approach? He is a very talented striker, Israel. He switches stances. His head movement is fantastic. He throws good feints to draw his attack. He's got hand movement up and down to really draw his opponent's eye off the target. He slides in and out of range very effectively, and he gets low and moves, which really changes the angle which his opponent can attack him at and really limits their ability to do damage. He has excellent body control. His feet are always in the right place. His shoulders are used to deflect strikes as well. And because he sees strikes so coming so easily, it's very difficult to hit him. And if you do hit him, it's usually at the end of his offense. He has 81% takedown defense overall. Wilkinson did take him down 3 times on 15 attempts. Vettori went 2 for 6, both takedowns coming in round 3. Tavares went 1 for 12 with the takedown coming in round 4. So it's arguable to say you got to put a lot of takedown attempts on him, and you have to get them, keep going, and you're more likely to get them later in fights. He has good balance in the clinch when pushed. He does a good job of, pushing his opponent's head away. On the shot, he gets his hips to the cage very effectively. He showed good single leg takedown defense against Brad Tavares. So far, he's shown just about everything we need to see out of a guy looking to stay vertical. When he was striking with Tavares, he was avoiding the majority of his offerings. Even when Tavares set up with a jab, he was counter-striking Vettori, who tried to bull rush him at times. He throws a nice left jab, lots of low kicks. He'll throw a switch kick to the head. He's incredibly capable with his legs, lots of dexterity there. Look for him to mix in spinning attacks, and offensively and from a statistical standpoint, he outlands his opponents almost 2-1. Now, he did show some signs of being overconfident against Tavares, clowning him a little bit. He needs to respect Brunson's power. He knocks at a guy like Uriah Hall, who's a good striker, and so that's the thing. All it takes is one shot. Or if he opts to go that wrestling route and has success, it could go that way as well. Look for Brunson to try and close the distance to land that big takedown or that big left hand to put him down, but when he does this, he's going to expose himself. And Adesanya, he's so good at avoiding and countering strikes, he's going to capitalize on this. Adesanya, he won't press forward wildly. He's going to pick his shots. He's going to counter if he doesn't initiate. And Brunson's either going to be too timid or he's going to be too aggressive. He's going to be one or the other. He's not going to find that happy balance here. Adesanya could outpoint him for the duration of the fight, but most likely he's going to catch Brunson coming forward. And my prediction is Israel Adesanya to defeat Derrick Brunson by knockout. Fight number 2 in the main card, also in the UFC's middleweight division, features Karl Baby K. Roberson, 6 wins and 1 loss, taking on the hammer of South Wales, Jack Marshman, with a current record of 22 wins and 7 losses. Now, Roberson is coming off his first career defeat, a submission against Cesar Ferreira. He submitted Derek Stewart, his name escaped me, in his debut fight. Marshman's going to have a submission loss to Antonio Carlos Jr. He's 2-1 in his first 3 UFC fights with 1-2. He was 2-1 his first 3 UFC fights with a loss to Thiago Santos. He has wins over Ryan James and Magnus Siedenblad, who both fighters are actually retired now, if that's worth noting. Physically, Roberson 1 inch taller. He'll have a 1 inch reach advantage, and he is the younger fighter by 1 year. Marshman comes to this matchup having been on the shelf for over a year. Now, Jack, he has been in some absolute epic fights, and he certainly values aggression and entertainment over strategy, which, is partly the reason he's got a record like he does. Overall, 13 wins by knockout, incredibly impressive. 18 finishes for his career, but he's also been knocked out 4 times, submitted once. He's 4-2 in the scorecards, so he's the type of guy who kind of goes out in a shield. 3 of his 4 UFC fights have finished before the final bell. For Roberson, he's been to the judges just once. He has 2 wins by knockout, 3 submission victories, as his loss to Fajeda was by submission. All of his fights have ended in the opening round. Now, Roberson comes from a kickboxing background. He did face Jerome Lebanner, losing a controversial split decision. He's got a good straight left hand. He moves very well. He's got a nice kicking arsenal, which isn't a surprise. Arguably, his most dangerous tool is his tie clinch. From that position, he'll land uppercuts, knees. On the Ultimate Fight, on the Tuesday Night Contender Series, he stopped his opponent with some brutal elbows. And that was against a 205er. Just some short, well-placed elbows once his opponent closed the distance. He is a southpaw, which opens up some power kicks to the bodies when he's facing a conventional opponent. He'll attack, I said, both the body and the head with those back leg power strikes. When he fought Stewart in his last matchup, he showed some excellent throws, putting him on the ground and rolling right to back, eventually leading to the rear naked choke. So despite being a kickboxer, he's got a couple submission victories, and he's shown he has some skills on the ground. Against Cesar Fajeda, absolutely not, but overall he does have some skills on the mat. When he fought Fajeda, he ran forward aggressively, got taken down, and that's where he spent the rest of the action. Now, for Marshman, as I said, he's an exciting fighter. He's going to come out and he's going to want to brawl, close the distance, and land in the pocket. He's got good head movement, which is the key to his success, slipping and moving onto the inside where he can land his strikes. He tends to have short punches. His arm punches a little bit, they don't get that full extension. When he fought Thiago Santos, he was routinely trying to close the distance, and ultimately that's where he was getting punished. He did drop Santos with a right hand over the top. He dropped Magnus Siedenblad with a left hand early in that matchup as well. But when you get stuck at range against Siedenblad and against Santos, he was getting absolutely tagged and lit up and busted up. When he fought Siedenblad, he landed a massive bomb and then got the finish with a ground and pound. He made that fight ugly, and that's how he was able to rally and pick up the victory. When he fought Santos, though, it's also worth noting he was taken down. Siedenblad took him down as well, and obviously Antonio Carlos Jr. took him down and submitted him. He appears to be vulnerable on the mat, and that's something Roberson could look to capitalize on. Overall, Marshman has to make this fight ugly, push forward, engage, and brawl. Roberson may opt to look for a takedown, which is something, again, I said he could look, especially if Marshman gets reckless pushing forward. Roberson has the ranged weapons and superior technical skills to do damage at distance. If Marshman gets too close, look for that clinch game to come into effect for Roberson, clinching and landing those short-range strikes. The way I look at it, Marshman has a very limited space to fight this matchup in and be successful. He could land with power in close, but obviously if he's stuck on the outside, he's not going to have much success. If he comes forward too recklessly, it's either going to be takedowns or a clinch game, and that's going to be an issue as well. And my prediction is Karl Roberson to defeat Jack Marshman by TKO. Fight number 3 in the main card will feature the 7th-ranked David Branch, former WSOF champion with a record of 21 wins and 4 losses, taking on the unranked and divisional debuting Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier with a record of 10 wins and 4 defeats. Now, this fight has been recently thrown together. It was originally scheduled to feature Branch taking on Jacare Souza. Souza got bumped up to face Weidman. Cannonier gets the call to take on Branch. Branch is coming off a TKO win over Thiago Santos. He's 2-1 in the UFC with his lone loss to Luke Rockhold. He has won 12 of his last 13 fights. For Cannonier, he got slapped by Dominic Reyes in his last fight, which was at light heavyweight. He has lost 2 in a row in 3 of his last 4, with his only win coming over a late notice replacement. For Cannonier, it's a 5.5-month turnaround, so fairly not a regular turnaround, but still not too much. He's making his middleweight debut, which is a bit of a question mark, and he's doing it on 2 weeks' notice. He's fought previously at heavyweight and light heavyweight, but Branch will be the taller man, 2 inches taller. He'll have a 1-inch reach advantage. Cannonier is 3 years younger. Now, looking at Branch, he's had some very different fights inside the octagon. He had a grind with Jocko. He knocked out Thiago Santos, nearly finished Rockhold before getting finished, so it's kind of been ups and downs, exciting and grinding and effective and not effective. How does Branch win this fight? That's a great question. He's a BJJ black belt, good on the mat. He has good posture, good top control, solid ground and pound, 7 wins by submission, along with multiple top position decision victories. He had 2 takedowns against Jocko, 1 against Rockhold. He showed some nice level changes in the Jocko fight, catching him as he came forward and timing him with that level change. He had some success clinching and pinning Jocko on the wall, landing some short strikes there. He uses good head position to maintain that position, and that's ultimately, I think, going to be his key to success here if he wins this fight. Cannonier has struggled with his opponents who look to wrestle with him. Jan Blachowicz took him down 4 times. Glover Teixeira took him down 3 times. Jan Cutelaba took him down on 6 occasions. We saw Cannonier at times hesitant to engage Blachowicz, again, possibly for the fear of getting taken down. And again, those were at heavyweight and light heavyweight. David Branch has fought at light heavyweight before, so I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. So on the flip side, how does Cannonier win this matchup? Branch, he's never been knocked out by punches, technically. He's tapped to strikes against Rockhold, and he was knocked out via slam against Gerald Harris way back in his first UFC tenure. He went the distance at 195 pounds with Rumble Johnson, which is damn impressive, and he didn't get stopped in that fight, so that tells you he can take a punch. Cannonier's power could translate better at 185 pounds, but again, if Rumble's not knocking you out, I question whether someone's going to knock you out with one punch. Again, it could happen. You never know. For Cannonier, though, he needs to be successful. Walk Branch down, attack and land power, outwork him over the duration of the fight, and punish him every time he looks to clinch up or look for a takedown. He has to stay vertical. That's absolutely his key to success, and just be the busier, more impactful fighter. Ultimately, though, I think Branch is good at grinding out his opponents on the mat and cage. He'll sap Cannonier's cardio simply because the late notice fight here and divisional debut. That's a lot to expect from a fighter. Cannonier's taking this fight, it's just way too much. Short notice, as I said, way too much, way too soon. Branch has fought at 205 pounds. Again, he will deal with a guy coming down who could be a little bit heavier. Don't be shocked if Cannonier misses weight. It's a big cut. And my prediction is David Branch defeat Jared Cannonier by decision. We move now to the co-main event of the evening, and it features a battle of former champions as the number 3 ranked Chris, the All-American Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion, 14 wins and 3 losses, takes on the number 5 ranked Ronaldo, Jacare Souza, with a record of 25 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest. He is a former Strikeforce middleweight champion. Now, originally, this fight was scheduled to feature Weidman and Rockhold rematching from their middleweight championship bout, but when Rockhold pulled out, the fight was scrapped. They bumped Jacare up and took him away from the Branch fight. Obviously, just Branch is going to be fighting Cannonier now. Now, Weidman's still looking for that chance to get back to his title shot. He's struggled tremendously since. He's coming off actually his first win since that fight. For Jacare, he is still looking for an opportunity to fight for UFC gold. Weidman, he beat Kelvin Gastelum in his last match, which halted a 3-fight losing streak. And again, it sucks to lose 3 in a row, but he fought Mousasi, Romero, and Rocco. Those are 3 elite guys at middleweight, and he probably loses to most guys. Would go on a 3-fight losing streak if that was your schedule. For Souza, he dropped a split decision to Kelvin Gastelum last time out. He stopped Derrick Brunson. He was TKO by Robert Whitaker. He had won 8 in a row previous to that little skid. Overall, he's 8-3 in the UFC, and yet he's yet to earn a title shot. That's an impressive record and still not getting there. His losses, again, 2 top middleweights and the next title contender, and 2 of those fights going by split decisions. That shows you how well Jacare has been fighting in his recent bouts. Physically, Weidman 1 inch taller. He'll have a 6-inch reach advantage, and he is the younger fighter by 5 years. Now, both men are exceptionally good on the mat. That's ultimately where their bread and butter is, and that's where they've had the majority of their success. Weidman, an All-American wrestler with a very capable submission game. Jacare, arguably the most dangerous fighter in mixed martial arts as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned. He's an elite-level BJJ black belt. Now, when good grapplers get together, we often see a striking-based fight, and that could very well be the case here. I would say of the 2, Jacare is more likely to go for a takedown, and because of what he offers. But again, Weidman's not going to be easy to take off his feet, maybe, unless you hurt him. And that's something we could look at here. So we'll see how that plays out. So then we have to decide who wins the striking battle here if we're going to figure out who wins this matchup. Each man's been knocked out 3 times. Jacare by Robert Whitaker, but then 2 times earlier in his career. For Chris Weidman, a little more concerning, his 3 knockouts have come on his 3-fight losing streak to those aforementioned Rockhold, Romero, and Mousasi. So they're very fresh, very relevant. For Weidman, he can strike, but he tends to be a little bit clunky, a little bit slower. He will slow down. He takes damage a lot, gets very hittable. He doesn't do well. He's a durable guy, but it starts to show up, and it really costs him. He tends to start strong and fade quickly. For Jacare, he can be hurt. He also will slow down, but he needs to be pushed more, and it takes more to get him out of there. Jacare stopped Derrick Brunson standing with big shots against Okami, stopping big shots again. Weidman really doesn't have that quality knockout just yet. Maybe you go back to was it Munoz he knocked out with an elbow? Yeah, maybe it was Munoz. Either way, he doesn't have that really high-quality knockout yet that Jacare is starting to showcase a little bit more later in his career. Weidman's lack of durability is concerning. Machida hurt him, Belfort buzzed him, stoppages against the guys we just talked about. Even Kelvin Gastelum dropped him. And that's something, when Weidman is struggling with the takedowns, or struggling with the wrestling, struggling with the striking scenarios, he relies on his wrestling. We saw that against Gastelum, 7 takedowns there. The ground and pound stoppage against Belfort, 5 takedowns against Machida. That's not going to be an option here. I really struggle to see him taking down Jacare and keeping him there. Weidman has to find success early if he's going to win this matchup, but again, that lack of the takedown threat is going to force him to strike with Jacare, who just appears to be the slightly more durable fighter and the more effective. Jacare hits hard, and that's going to show up here, and look for him to do damage with that possible head kick, especially if he gets Weidman in trouble. And my prediction is Jacare Souza to defeat Chris Weidman by TKO. We move now to the main event of the evening, the UFC Heavyweight Championship on the line, as 2 divisional champion Daniel DC Cormier, with a current record of 21 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest, takes on the number 2 ranked fighter in the division and title challenger, Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, with a current record of 21 wins, 5 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Derrick Lewis is fighting for the heavyweight title. Let that sink in. I remember when he used to do the old, like, yeah, I got the belt, give me the belts. It was when Cain was the champion, talking about Cain Velasquez, and it seemed like a pipe dream, and now here he is fighting Cain's training partner for the strap. For Cormier, he's making his first official heavyweight title defense. It looks like he's going to be stripped of the light heavyweight title. John Jones coming back and fighting for it. That could be a distraction here. Obviously, Stipe claiming he should be fighting for the title as well. Lewis openly admitting Stipe should be fighting for the title as well. So a lot going on here. But when you look at what Derrick Lewis has done, a lot of people want to discredit him or say he's not worthy of a title shot. Maybe it's a little bit rushed. Maybe he should have got a little bit of chance to recover. But he owns wins over Gabriel Gonzaga, Roy Nelson, Travis Brown, Marcin Tibera, Francis Ngannou, and Alexander Volkov. He is 9-1 over his last 10 fights at heavyweight with 7 finishes. That is fucking impressive. For Lewis, physically he's 4 inches taller, he'll have a 7-inch reach advantage, and he should come in 20 to 25 pounds heavier than the champion, and he's the younger man by 6 years, so lots of physical advantages for the title challenger. Now, for Lewis, he's also fighting on less than a month's notice after his last fight. And the guy even said after his last bout,
I need to sit my black ass down and do some more cardio. Fuck what you talking about right now. I ain't trying to fight for no title right now. Not with no gas tank like that. Shit.
So there you have it. He's not ready for a title shot as far as he's concerned. Obviously, money talks, and here we are. Because, you know, one of those things, the UFC likes to capitalize on popularity, and Lewis's popularity has never been higher. Just a vicious, violent knockout on one of the most anticipated and talked about events of the year with the Conor McGregor shenanigans going on. And then he had that great post-fight interaction with Joe Rogan that got, I know other people I was watching with were like, what did he just say? And it was a lot of fun.
Derrick, why'd you take your pants off?
My balls was hot.
I understand.
So here he is fighting for a title shot now, and why the hell not? Now, how does Derrick Lewis win this fight? It's pretty much like any other fight. He has to knock DC out. That's what it comes down to. You know, he has to hit him with some bombs and put him away. Now, Cormier has been hit with some big shots before. Anthony Rumble Johnson hit him. Gustafsson hit him. John Jones knocked him with that head kick. He can be hurt. He can be stunned. Does Derrick Lewis have the striking acumen to deliver that shot? He's not a great striker, but he only needs one opportunity. He's got to make it messy, get on the inside and land. Again, against Volkov, he showed at any point in time he can end a fight, even if it's the absolute last point in time when I need a fighter to win by knockout, which he did, which was fantastic. Then Dominic Reyes, the whole situation with OSP, had to go screwed up and not get a proper Dan Miragliotta stoppage, and that wrecked my night. I think ultimately in this fight he's going to struggle to close the distance on Cormier. Despite having that reach, Cormier is just too fast, and he's a better striker, and he has that sort of a takedown that's going to keep Lewis from wanting to push forward. Now, Cormier's shown he's willing to fight in the clinch, but that would be ultimately stupid here. The longer he fights vertically against Derrick Lewis, the greater chance he has of getting hurt, getting clipped, and knocked out. So how does Cormier win this fight? It's with takedowns. It's absolutely with takedowns. He could win it standing, but that's, again, it creates a greater, opportunity for risk. He is faster. His striking is better, but again, he's more vulnerable. Why play with fire? Lewis has had issues with getting taken down in fights. Roy Nelson took him down. Shamil Abdurrahimov took him down. Even Victor Pesta took him down on multiple occasions. Go all the way back, Sean Jordan took him down on multiple occasions. Cormier is by far the best wrestler he's faced in the UFC, and DC has taken down bigger and more capable wrestlers than Derrick Lewis. Maybe not bigger men, but more capable wrestlers than Lewis. Once DC gets on top, he can grind this fight out, land strikes, overwhelm Lewis, and if he gets his back, look for that ground and pound stoppage if he flattens him out, or locking in that rear naked choke. Coincidentally, though, DC's wrestling does give Lewis a chance to do what he does best. Lewis has been very opportunistic when it comes to countering takedown attempts and getting on top. He turns defense into offense. Fighters that have tried to take Lewis down and have failed ultimately end up on their back, with Lewis forcing himself in a top position, and then he goes to work with that vicious ground and pound and forces a stoppage. Could Lewis do that to Daniel Cormier? You know, it's not a strategy I want to rely on. I don't want to take an Olympic or a top-level wrestler and say, hey, look, you know, take me down. That's my best chance to win this fight. That's not exactly a recipe for success, but again, that's probably a situation he's preparing for, is countering that takedown attempt and you know, using that shoulder pressure to counter and push him backwards and get on top. If Cormier makes a mistake, gets tired, gets sloppy, that could happen. Lewis, he's a handful, but you know, he breaks down. His back is an issue. It stiffens up, and it compromises his ability to fight. DC, I think he's going to change levels in this matchup, and I don't know if we will return back to our feet once we get there. Look for DC to grab that single and just elevate and dump Lewis, or get him off balance and then drive through on his hips and complete the takedown. Once they get there, he'll probably work his way to back position, grind him out a little bit. Even if he doesn't get the finish early, that initial takedown is going to make Lewis exceptionally tired, and even though Lewis carries his power very deep into fights and very effective, and he's very dangerous, against Daniel Cormier, it's a different animal, different level of competition. And again, as much as I'd love to see Daniel Cormier get knocked out here and Lewis hold that title belt up and another post-fight interaction with Joe Rogan, I just don't see it happening. So my prediction is Daniel Cormier to defeat Derrick Lewis by TKO. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC 230. As I previously mentioned, all of my UFC 230 prelim predictions will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so please check them out. The bet packs, which are absolutely on fire, big money in each of our last 2 shows. All of my gold and silver plays in the last show won. All of my gold plays from the previous show won. All the results are available on my website if you want to check them out in each review. They're $15 in the bet shop, and I talk about every single fight. Fantasy bets, parlays, breakdowns, everything you can possibly want, I give you. Again, I can't guarantee anything, but I just keep working hard and keep having success. Also consider subscribing. You'll save yourself some money. It's the equivalent of getting 2 bet packs for free for the rest of the year. Melbet.org. Check that link out in the description below. Follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. I hope you like the videos. Hopefully upvote them and subscribe. Again, I only get a chance once in a while now to get to go in front of the camera. I always say behind the camera, in front of the camera, and you know, do a video like this. But we get a lot of fights coming up. It's going to be a very busy November, December. We'll do our best to get through all of it. But yeah, so again, thanks guys for tuning in and checking it out. Please leave your comments in the comments below. Ask me anything. Again, if you want to be a dickhead, just go somewhere else. Again, I've banned people for less, so just, I love constructive criticism. I love it when people have good things to say, bad things to say, but as long as you're not an asshole about it, and that's all it comes down to. Thank you again for tuning in, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. There's the music. Time to go.